done all of our SEO research. We're ready. We've done everything we now we've got to get to improving the UI, UX with our next website redesign. Jason, Chelsea, you guys do a lot of that. Nick does a lot of that. You know way more than I do. What are some ways to improve your user experience in your website design? What do you guys take into consideration?
So right off the bat, I would say incorporate your brand and do it consistently across all boards. If you're already out in the field and people see your trucks, your shirts, your yard signs, what have you, people are already seeing that, but then when they come onto your site, they'll feel like they already know you a little bit. So just keeping everything consistent makes everything better, makes you look even more professional, and it never hurts. Another thing I would say is readability on your website. If you're coming from an outdated website, you may have some things that weren't thought about 3, 5, even more years ago. So having that readability is very important for your clients, especially with all the inclusivity things we need to think about these days. What was I going to say? Colorblind, is there anything else? I can restart that thought.
Well, you got the colorblind aspects and
like access, maybe not inclusivity, accessibility.
Yeah, the accessibility.
Okay, I'll start with that. Okay. Another thing would be readability on the site, especially if you're coming from a site that's a little more outdated. You want to update all that stuff to have better accessibility for your site these days. An example of that would be color with people who suffer from color blindness. So just updating those things, they may seem small, but they can make a big impact on your site. Another big one, especially for me as a designer, is white space. A lot of people are afraid of it, but it's actually one of your best friends and best tools you can use on your site. People tend to clutter the design, over design, but a little bit of white space or a lot of white space is your friend. So don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, it can make your message pop out. The things you want people to know can pop off that page, and it's much easier to find and read than if it's buried between a bunch of graphics and other things. Jace, what do you do?
Well, for me, whether it's a current client that we're doing a redesign for, or we have a new client that's coming in, which is new to us, but those new clients, I'm definitely still reliant on the SEO team, because if they have pages that are ranking, they may not have pages that are ranking, but they may have some that are. So what within regards to that page or potential setup do I not want to mess up within this design? So I will for sure look at all those aspects. I would say a lot of the time we kind of are going, bottom up, but there is some times where we've had some clients that rank very well, and they're just kind of just switching, providers and stuff like that, to where it looks like it is a redesign basically, and we're not going to want to wreck those kind of things. But, I just researched the crap out of, modern designs. There's different kind of sites you can look at. I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at things I like, looking at things that maybe other people may like. And then how can I intertwine that stuff to fit the areas that we may have written, images that we may be using already, or the clients have that's on their sites that's working through SEO or anything like that. But just looking at that, every piece that I could potentially use, how is this going to work with what we have already for content? What can we utilize for potential, I call it eye candy, things like that may be, good to the eye, but we're not getting it over the top, because you don't want things bogging down your page speed scores and stuff like that, or scripting. But just all over I'm all over the place, man. Like I guess so. The best factor for me is just like I said, I truly look at every aspect. I love design. I love coding. And with that, understanding the SEO side of things and content and where it all comes together, extremely beneficial when it comes to designing these sites, because I feel completely comfortable with it. I understand all the aspects and stuff like that. And when it comes to the redesigns, I think when you have a designer, and we're very good at this, all of our designers, we can look at all those aspects and put forth that and within our designs, and it still comes through with all the aspects that we're trying to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for the UX too, someone's looking, maybe they haven't designed their site in a while. How well does that translate to what is now the mobile first? Mm-hmm. Most of your traffic is coming from a phone. This is pretty much every business. It keeps on getting more and more on the phone. a lot of people's sites are designed for desktop.
Yep.
So how well does it translate? How well does, when you first bring that site up on the phone, how well is that menu working on the phone?
Yep.
You know, you can see sometimes it just doesn't break, it's clunky, it doesn't work well. And then how well are your images scaling right?
Yeah.
Or is your content moving right when you're on the phone? You know, a designer can design a nice section for a wide width on a desktop, but it doesn't scale well. That doesn't scale down to the phone, and now it just doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's certain things you can do. Everything's mobile first these days. It has to translate between both, and you need both to work perfectly. So it doesn't translate, you're losing customers.
Yep.
So that's one of the biggest things that I think a lot of old sites that people really need designs need to focus on, because they're losing a lot of that phone traffic to now they're not converting.
I think another thing that people forget about too are page speeds and loading times. You can design in a cool animation or have a video or have a really big, beautiful picture on there. But if the file size is huge, your page is going to take forever to load, and people are going to be like, well, it's not up already because I'm, of course, impatient. I'm bouncing.
Well, that's even, you can just take away Google Insights for a second. Just take that away. You don't have the scores coming up, stuff like that. You go to these sites that you'll see on these portfolio places, or like I always say, like just the sites that people display their work at. I'll see something that looks sweet in a thumbnail. I got to open that. I got to check this out. I got to see if there's anything there I like. They'll be using so in-depth things for scripting that and I'm more relaxed. I'll take 5-10 seconds wait because I'm just waiting to see this thing. A lot of times they won't load. I'm bouncing. I'm not going to spend my time, and I'm just someone trying to see the design. I'm not even trying to get a service.
Yeah.
So you get those. The eye candy is not always good tasting candy.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, I mean, you can do those extensive graphics and things, but it has to be a little bit further down the page, at least if you want to be within best SEO practice. So that, what I mean by that, you can what's called lazy load. So you can have that to where it's not actually loading in the first page load, and as you scroll, now it starts to download that information, so that the user doesn't have to download this graphic or video just to get the first part of the site to load, which is how all of our sites we lazy load everything below the fold. Now we do a few things like that. So there was a few years ago where background videos were very popular, and it seemed like we did more video production for background videos than any other production.
It was the trend.
It was the trend. So what happens there is that we end up not loading that video at all on mobile. So we can do it on desktop because it doesn't affect your desktop displayed. Essentially, doesn't affect your Google rank.
Yep.
So when we get it to a mobile phone, we just don't even load that. We just do a still image. So, some of these people feel great about their website because when they load the desktop version, it has this background video, but they're not taking into consideration is that 72% of their traffic is on mobile.
You're never going to see it.
And they don't even see the video. And even if they did, it'd be too small. They wouldn't care.
No.
So it's a good point, Chelsea, but is to not stick too much for user, overload in that top of that fold. I mean, you're going to see your bounce rates go down significantly. There's too much information. They need to process who you are first, especially if people haven't heard of you. And then you can start getting them with additional graphics or videos or information.
And, for me, we utilize the crap out of lazy load, which is awesome. And if you are just a very subtle transition, half the time when that stuff loads, it looks like a transition,
Yeah.
So it kind of has that nice smooth scroll effect a little bit there, in my opinion.
Yeah.